Hi everybody, so this is a bump plan class. It's an hour long and it's a combination of low impact cardio and Pilates. So we will be doing some cardio and I'll talk you through some of the guidelines on that when we get cracking. You must only do this class though if you have no contraindications to exercise. So if in doubt, log out, send me an email, we can decide together. Listen to your body, so even though this is safe for all trimesters, you know, if there's an exercise that's not very comfortable, feel free to sit it out. Make sure you've got water nearby. I will keep reminding you to drink throughout the class, so make sure that you do, and you do need good sports bras on. All right guys, I think that's everything. So when you're ready, let's get started. We're going to start by marching on the spot, easing ourselves in because it is Saturday morning at 8 AM, so we don't need to go crazy straight away. If you're watching it on demand, I hope that it's a much more suitable hour for you. So we're just marching on the spot, guys. The arms are loose down by the sides of your body. Good. And as soon as you get started, you can start to think about these ankles. Get them moving. Point, flex, those ankles. Really important, guys, that we keep that mobility in the ankles when we're pregnant, because as your bumps get bigger, remember you are pulled forwards, which shortens the front of the ankle, so do try and keep those ankles nice and mobile. Now, for anyone who is new, especially on demand, just to let you know that when we're doing cardio when we're pregnant, we want to aim to keep it at a moderate intensity. Now, when it's moderate intensity, you would still be able to talk, okay? So you'd be able to have a conversation with a friend. It might still sound a bit panty, but you would be able to talk, okay? So that's one way you can test you're not working too hard. But the other way is a scale of 1 to 10. So 1 is you sat on the sofa doing nothing. 10 is you at the end of a marathon pre-pregnancy. Effort-wise, let's pitch it around a 6 or a 7, yeah? So then you know you're working hard enough, but still not too hard, okay? We don't want high intensity today. Now let's start to lift the knees up a little bit higher. If you already have quite a big low bump, you might want to go into turnout here. Do what's comfy for you. But again, really exaggerate the movement in the ankle. Point, flex, point, flex. Well done, guys. Make sure that you're breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. So gradually we're going to increase the speed. Remember, we're still trying to stay at that 6 or 7 out of 10. But we do want to try and get up to that level. Remember, your warm-up is basically just a slightly easier version of what you're about to do, okay? So, 5 more seconds. Could we go faster? Lovely. 3, 2, 1, and change into your squat. So we can either go parallel hip width or wider, but then we'll go into turnout. We squat down, we push away. Inhale down and exhale up. So as soon as you get cracking, does it feel okay? So some of you who are kind of second and third trimester, you might be starting to experience a few pains or aches in the pelvis. Maybe pelvic girdle pain, but maybe also just general pregnancy. So just see how it feels. It should never hurt to squat. And if it does, it just means there needs to be a few tweaks. Maybe we bring the legs closer together. Maybe we don't go as deep. And maybe it's the lower back. Maybe you need to hinge forwards a bit more to keep that back nice and neutral. Whatever you're doing though, guys, use those glutes. Push the ground away. Final 4 and 3. Think about that. Scale of 1 to 10. 2, 1 more, and change. Feet in parallel, as wide as is comfy for your pelvis. Hands to prayer. One leg bent, one leg straight. So into this dynamic skater stretch. Now remember, when you're pregnant, your pregnancy hormones help your joints be more lax, which is basically building you up for labour. But it can mean you're more susceptible to overstretching. So try not to ever do a stretch that's really developmental, that's really pushing you past your end range. So movement-based stretches usually are much safer. Final 3. And 2, and 1, and change. Feet a bit closer together, hands on the shoulders, and nice big arm circles. Lovely. Just rocking from one foot to the other so we don't cool down. And can you open that chest a touch more? Good. Try and keep the ribs in the body, so try not to lean back. And we're going to do 2 more, 1 more, and reverse it. Other direction. Lovely. Nice big circles. Keep the core gently engaged. We'll talk about that a little bit later on if you're new, but basically try not to lean back and just let everything hang out. Final 2 and 1, and then shake out those arms. Last of all, feet hip width apart, one heel up, one heel down into your single calf raises. Just be careful that you're not doing too much of this. Try and keep those hips nice and neutral, so moving the legs rather than moving the pelvis and the lower back. And final 5, 3, 2, 1. Give those ankles a rotate, one direction and then the other, and then rest. Come on guys, have a quick sip of water. That's the end of your warm-up. Now I'm going to demonstrate your first 2 cardio exercises, and then we'll do them all together. So first 2 exercises, grapevine. We start at the end of the mat, we sidestep back the way you came. If you're first trimester or you're still jogging, you could add in a bit of a leap through the centre if you want it. Second exercise is split punch. So it's opposite arm, opposite leg out in front of you. Is always opposites. Again, if you're first trimester or you're still jogging, you could just switch straight into the next one, okay? So, grapevine, one end of your mat to the other. 3, 2, 1, let's go. Sidestep, back the way you came. Reach, and then return. So again, if you're first trimester or bouncing around still feels okay for you, you could add in a little leap through the middle if you wanted to, because it's no more bouncy than going for a jog. And remember, you can keep running when you're pregnant, so see how it feels for you. And we've got just under 10 seconds to go. Think about your scale of 1 to 10. Can you still talk? 5, 3, 2, 1. Opposite arm, opposite leg, and we push them out in front. We punch. Again, first trimesters, you could switch straight from one to the other. Otherwise, this is the low impact option. Try to get angry, guys. Think of someone you would like to punch. Take it out on them. Good. So proper punches. Just under 10 seconds. Can you still talk? Lovely. 5, 3, 2, 1, and rest. But remember, we don't really rest in the rest period. We just keep the feet moving, have a wander around, have a small sip of water. Remember, lots of just regular small sips throughout the class is perfect, especially if you're feeling a bit nauseous still. So quick sip. Lovely guys, slow the breath down. Now remember, the first round is always a great opportunity to just reflect, where was I on my scale of 1 to 10? Do I need to go a bit faster when I do it the second time, or do I need to maybe slow it down a bit? So, when you're ready, you're going to come to the middle of your mat for your toner. So before we do it a second time, we do an exercise that focuses on posture before returning back to that cardio. I'd like everybody to try to find their neutral posture. So regulars, you'll know what you're doing. If you're new, look at the feet. They should be hip width apart and parallel. Arches lifted, toes spread wide. The knees, they're not supposed to be locked out, but they're not supposed to be bent either. They're just a bit soft. So unlock those knees. The pelvis should be neutral. Now this does get more challenging as your bumps get bigger, but maybe if you guys just imagine the pelvis like it's a bowl of water that we don't want to spill, okay? So try and keep that pelvis really neutral. Check those ribs. Remember, by the end of pregnancy, the ribs can spread up to 4 centimetres. It's quite a big difference to your bras. So just have an awareness here that you're not allowing them to just completely go wild. They are still drawing into the body using your abdominals. Arms are down by your side, shoulders relaxed, back and down, and the eye line is straight ahead. Now hold it here. Start to think about your Pilates breath. In through your nose, out through the mouth. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Keep that breath going. And then I'd like us to do some abdominal hollowing for our toner today. You're going to put your hands on your tummies, just underneath your belly button. Now on the next exhale, I'd like you to lift the pelvic floor, and then as you inhale, release the pelvic floor. Again, as you exhale, you lift your pelvic floor. As you inhale, you release your pelvic floor. And let's just keep this going. When we lift the pelvic floor, guys, remember we're trying to imagine holding in wind or a poo. That's the most important bit. If you can also manage to add in holding in a wee, fantastic. Now imagine you're wearing a corset On the next exhale, lift the pelvic floor and tighten up this corset. Inhale, release it all back off. Do it again. Exhale, you need a poo, you need a wee, and you've tightened up your corset. Inhale, release it all back off. Couple more. So we're just making this awareness of the core here. Every time I ask you to engage your core, this is what I'm asking you to do. Now on the next ones, I want you to make sure you feel your tummy move. If we weren't pregnant, what we really would be doing is scooping the tummy in. Obviously once there's a baby in there, that's not always that comfortable, but you want to think instead about hugging your baby with your corset muscle. So keep that going for me, guys. Exhale, it's pelvic floor and corset. Inhale, we're releasing it off. Now this is really, really great. You guys can do this each day. 12, 15 reps a day is going to really help you keep your core switched on and support your lower back. 2 more. As you exhale, remember it's pelvic floor and that corset. We should feel the tummy moving slightly. Inhale, let it go. Do this one more time. Lift the pelvic floor, draw that corset in and hold. So we should all feel, if we've got a bump, the bump's lifted or drawn in a bit. If we haven't got a bump, the tummy has just tightened and drawn in. We should feel stability through the lower back. Keep breathing. Is the pelvic floor still on? And then when you're ready, you can relax it and have a quick rest. So that corset muscle, guys, I'll be talking about it a lot today. You now know what I mean when I say engage your core. Second round of those same 2 cardio exercises. Grapevine first of all. 3, 2, 1. So we sidestep, back the way you came, reach and reach. Slight bend in the elbows here. That should stop it all going up into the shoulders. And remember, you can add in a little leap through the center if you fancy it. Yeah? So as long as your pelvic floor and your boobs are all right with it, then of course you can add in that little leap. Lovely. Make sure that you're breathing. Make sure you can still talk. We've got 7 seconds. Lovely. 5. And then 3, 2, 1, split punch. So it's opposite arm, opposite leg out in front. If you want to jump straight from one into the other, you can. Again, same thing. Baby's fine. They've got loads of cushioning around them. But it's more about how your pelvic floor and your boobs feel. If they're happy, feel free to jump. Lovely. Get angry. Proper punches. Nice. Almost there, guys. Are you still able to talk? And we've got 5 seconds left. Can we go a bit faster? 3 and 2 and 1 and rest, but don't really rest. Walk around, have some water. And again, ask yourself, where am I on that scale of 1 to 10? That is your best guide, the talk test and the scale. So we tend to now steer away from kind of checking heart rate monitors because one person's heart rate will be very different to someone else's when they're pregnant. But instead we think about the effort and whether we're able to talk. So when you're ready, guys, and things have calmed down a bit, heart rate has dropped, then we're going to make our way to the end of our mats, okay? So walk to the end of the mat, and can you all find neutral again for me? So feet are parallel hip width, the knees are not locked but not bent. The pelvis is like a bowl of water we don't want to spill. The arms are by our side, the ribs are in the body, and your eye line is straight ahead. So try not to look at the screen if you can help it. Just look directly ahead. Remember that when we're in neutral, the head feels like it's right over the arches of the feet. And just make sure the water is in the bowl of the pelvis, because we can feel neutral. We can have the head above the feet, but the pelvis might be out here. So that is not neutral. Keep the water in the bowl, and usually you can't go wrong. Now, first of all, bring your hands to prayer position at your chest. Relax the shoulders back and down. Take a big breath in, and as you exhale, we're going to rise up onto tiptoes. And we're going to hold that first one there. Try and keep the weight spread equally across the ball of the foot. Don't go onto your little toe too much. And then inhale, lower the heels back down. Do it again. Exhale, rise up onto the ball of the foot. Inhale, lower the heels to the ground. And we're just going to keep this going. Exhale to lift and inhale to lower. As you're doing this, let's try and keep the water inside the bowl of the pelvis. There's a real tendency when we lift up to try to balance ourselves out by doing this. So just try to stay really, really neutral. All we're doing is changing the center of gravity as we move. which is pregnancy, isn't it? Your centre of gravity is constantly changing and we're having to constantly adapt to that. Final 3, warming up those calves. Last 2, get those ankles moving. Last 1, could we come up and hold and stay there? Again, are the ankles nice and neutral? Is the water in the bowl of the pelvis? And then when you're ready, lower those heels down. Reach your arms up towards the ceiling and just make sure again you're still neutral. Don't let those ribs pop. Keep the arms here relative to your head and then slowly roll down for the slowest roll down you've ever done in your life. And then once you get to the bottom, if you feel a bit squashed, you might want to take the feet wider if you've got a big bump and get comfy. Just hang here for me. Now, if you get lightheaded at any point, please do roll up, have a break and then come back and join me. Otherwise, just hang here, relax the back of your neck, let those arms be heavy and just give that lower back a rest. As your babies get heavier, as your bumps get bigger, the lower back has a really big job. So giving it a break is really important. Now, when you're ready, if you feel safe to do so, bend the knees and we're going to walk out slowly onto hands and knees. Otherwise, you can meet me here, however's safest for you. Once you're here, I want you to find your nice neutral spine again. So the same position with your spines as you were standing. Neutral is always the same, no matter what position you're in. And then come back to the breath again. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Nice big deep breath in through the nose. And nice noisy exhale out through the mouth. And we're going to keep that circular breath going. Now, keeping your spine neutral, let your tummies hang down. So if you've got tight maternity leggings on that are quite high, you might want to pull the waistband down so that your bump is quite free. And we're going to practice that abdominal hollowing here and it'll feel a bit different. We breathe in. As we exhale, we lift the pelvic floor and we tighten our imaginary corset. And then we inhale to release all of that back down and do it again. Exhale, we lift the pelvic floor, we tighten up the corset. Inhale, we release it all back off. Now, if you look at your tummies, guys, whether you've got a bump yet or not, we should be seeing some action. So remember, it should almost look like the tummy is rising and falling. Now that you're facing the floor and you're working against gravity, it can actually be easier just to tell if you're doing this because the baby pulls the tummy down and then the corset muscle pulls the baby back in. So you can see how they work against each other. And so if this muscle can stay active and stay functional during pregnancy, it's really going to help support your lower back, guys, because it's going to carry the baby. It's going to help hold them in so it doesn't pull you into so much of an arch in the lower back. So we're going to do 3 more of these. Again, this is an exercise you guys can practice on your own every day to keep this muscle active. Last 2, I can still talk, I can still breathe, so it's not aggressive. Now the last one, let's engage and hold it there for me. So do you feel the pelvic floor is on? Remember, it should feel like you're holding in a poo and a wee. Do you feel that you're hugging in your bump or you're tightening the corset around your waist? And you should feel that you've got a bit more support, especially those of you with big heavy bumps now. Feel what that muscle does to help support your lower back. Then when you're ready, you can just relax it, you can let it go, and then carefully push yourselves up to standing kneel, rearrange your trousers if you do, pull them down. Now we're going to roll over, we're not going to lie flat on our backs, and be careful as you come into position so you don't dome, but we're actually going to roll over onto our forearms. So we're lying on our forearms, facing the ceiling, knees bent, feet on the floor. Now remember, once you're past about week 16, you don't want to be lying flat on your back for longer than around 3 minutes. To be honest, even a minute's usually quite uncomfortable anyway. So we can prop ourselves up and we can pretty much do a lot of the exercises we would do lying on our back. Now we've also got a great view of our tummies here. I want you to all activate your core again. So lift the pelvic floor, activate that corset muscle. And again, you might see your tummy tighten or lift. Try not to sink into your arms. Feel like you're really showing off your boobs. Keep that collarbone wide. And I'd like your pelvis to be neutral, especially once we start moving. Don't do this. Equally though, don't just rest on the ground. Find neutral. Now look at your tummies, guys. Keep an eye on them. Everyone float the left leg up to tabletop and then stay there for a second. What did your bump do? Did it tighten a bit more or has it gone pointy? What we don't want is doming, and doming looks like a Toblerone. It's running down the middle of your tummy or the back of a dinosaur's back. So we want to keep the tummy nice and round, and the best way to do that is to keep that core engaged. Now, if there's no doming, you carry on with me. If you're doming, guys, put the foot down and I'll come back to you. So if you're not doming, you're going to exhale, lift the right leg up, inhale, pop it down, exhale, lift the left leg up and pop it down. So we're just doing a single leg lift. Now that is basically option 2, okay? Option 1 is for those of you that are doming, even just by lifting up the leg. If you're doming, option 1 is sliding the foot along the ground and sliding it back in, because then we're not adding as much load to the core. And basically doming is where the load is too great. So this is a regression. This makes it easier if you're doming. Now, if you're not doming in option 2, so the lower and the lift, we can make it a touch harder. We could lift the leg, extend the leg, bend the leg, and then lower the foot back down. So we lift the leg, extend the leg, bend the leg, and lower the foot down. So this is option 3. Now, whichever option you're on, you're basically trying to find your bite point. Where is too much load? Remember that your abdominals, your 6-pack abdominals down the centre of your tummy separate as your bumps get bigger. That's completely normal. That has to happen to allow space for your baby. Doming is where you've put too much pressure through the core, and that pressure's pushing out through the centre of those abdominals, through the linea alba. So it just means the exercise is a bit hard for you right now. It's not going to harm you if you don't, so you don't need to panic. But it just means that you need to regress the exercise. You need the easier option. Remember that the best way to reduce the chance of doming is to keep the core engaged. So that's pelvic floor and corset switched on. And whichever option you're on, your pelvis shouldn't be moving. Whether you're doming or not, I want that pelvis to stay completely still. Couple more of these, guys. Don't sink into those shoulders. Try and show off your chest. Now we're going to do one more. When you're done with your final one, lower the feet back down to the floor, roll over onto your left-hand side, and then push yourselves up to seated. Now we're going to keep the knees bent, but make sure you're comfy. So those of you quite far along, you might need to play around with where you put your legs, but I do want you sat on your bum with your legs in front of you, knees bent, okay? So they might be wide if you need to. Pull the flesh away from your sit bones so you can feel the bum bone underneath you, and then put your hands behind your thighs, okay? So you've got some grip. We're going to go into a quick C curve. We're going to round our spines, and we're going to roll back as far as we can keep the feet on the ground and the grip on the back of your legs. So we're in a C shape here, guys. We're not in neutral anymore. We're actually sort of tucked under, aren't we? We're in lumbar flexion. The upper back is the easy bit. Most of us probably spend a lot of the week in flexion, looking at laptops, looking at children. The lower back though, that's where I want you to focus, guys. During pregnancy, it can get really grippy, really tight. So try to tuck that tailbone under. It's like you're trying to get the back of your waistband closer to the ground. Now look at your tummies, guys. There should be no doming because you're supporting yourself with your arms. If you are doming, come up a bit. If you're not doming, fantastic, activate your core a bit more, so pelvic floor and corset. And if you fancy a challenge, you could lift your left arm overhead. If that causes doming, you know what to do. Regress the exercise, keep the hand behind the knee, put that arm down. Again, if you're not doming, maybe you lift the right arm up and lower it back down. So guys, we're only adding in this arm lift if we can see that there's no doming. We're making the exercise harder without then losing that form, without doming. If you are doming, regress the exercise, keep the hands here and just focus on stretching that lower back. So there's always lots of options, but basically the rule of thumb, if you're doming, you need to make this easier. You need to take some of the effort that's in the core away. Whatever you're doing, guys, we've got 4 left. Keep that core active. Don't forget that pelvic floor. Lovely, last 2. No pointy tummies, nice, smooth and rounded. 1 more. When you're done, put both hands back behind the knees. Can you stretch that lower back a little bit more? And then when you're ready, slowly come all the way back up to seated and then have a quick rest. Now we're coming up for our second round of cardio, so take your time. I don't want you to get dizzy on the way up because I've got a demo anyway. I would definitely have some water. Now your next 2 exercises, same thing, 30 seconds each. Skaters, so we're reaching from one end of the mat to the other. This is your low impact option. You can see I'm not jumping, I'm stepping. If you've got pelvic girdle pain, you might want to do smaller steps, but do them faster. First trimester and runners, you could reach if you like, as long as your mat is not going to slip, you could jump if that feels right for you. Second exercise is floor to ceiling, and I really like this one because it's practicing good form for what you're going to do with a newborn. You could do it in turnout, you could do it in parallel, but you're going to imagine you're picking something up off the ground and then putting it on the shelf. Picking it up and then putting it up. You need good form, so hinging from the hips and the knee. Look at my back. What we tend to do is either this or this. So we want neutral spines as we pick it up, and then a neutral pelvis at the top, yeah? Does that make sense? So skaters, one end of the mat towards the other end. You don't have to get to the other end. 3, 2, 1. So we reach one way, back the way you came. Taking up as much of the mat as is comfortable for you. Remember, nothing should ever hurt. Just because you're pregnant, and we do get aches and pains, there shouldn't be pain in exercise here. If there is, reduce the range of movement, take out the impact, or go slower. If you're first trimester or you are still running, remember you can still do regular skaters if that feels okay for you. Do try and stick to your 6 or 7 out of 10. Do whatever it takes to get yourself there. So we've got 5 seconds left. Then we're squatting. 3, 2, 1. Choose your squat position. Bend down, pick something up. Put it on a shelf. Pick it up, put it up. Now think about life with a newborn, guys. Constantly picking them up out of their Moses basket or their prams. Constantly picking up things you've dropped. Getting them out the bath. We want to have really good technique. So we need to get it into our muscle memory now. So nice neutral spines. At the top, do not lean back. 5 seconds to go. 3, 2, 1, and rest. But don't completely rest. Keep the legs moving, walk around the room, keep those feet on the go. Have a sip of water. Alright guys, thinking back to that first round, where did it get you to? Remember, you always do whatever it takes for you to get to 6 or 7. What takes you to get to 6 or 7 will be very different to someone else. So you just work with how you're feeling today. Now, I've touched on squatting, okay? I just want to break a few things down, because squatting during pregnancy is really your best friend. And squats, we've all done them a million times before, but I don't see them done well very often. Now, what we have as options is parallel hip width. As soon as we start taking them wider, that's when really turnout is a better option for you, because parallel out here is actually really, really odd for the hips and the knees. So you would turn out and you'd follow through. Just because you like doing it in turnout though, try and mix this up. I've spent years demonstrating turnout, and now I find parallel really tricky. So don't get into that position, try and mix it up. So whatever position you guys were doing your floor and ceiling just then, on the second time try and do it the other way. But I would like you guys all to come into neutral posture for a sec for your toner. I'm going to break the squat down just a touch. I don't want to teach you to suck eggs, but it might really help. So find neutral. Feet, knees, pelvis. Even if you normally do squats in turnout, let's try them in parallel here. Hands to prayer position. Now keep your back neutral for me, and I'd like you all to hinge forwards at the hips 45 degrees and then stay here for a sec. Now as soon as you're here, there's a few things we want to start thinking about. If we just did nothing, if we were just here thinking about what we're going to have for breakfast, what we tend to find is the lower back would kick in and get actually pretty uncomfortable, especially if we added load. So get your glutes on, give your bums a squeeze, guys. Squeeze your bum cheeks together like there's a pencil in your bum crack that you're trying to keep hold of. And giving it a pat and a prod can help. Give it a tactile cue, but also you'll then be able to tell, is it hard, is it on? As soon as you activate the glutes, that should help. Add in your core, so pelvic floor, poo and a wee. Corset, we know what that corset muscle does. We practiced on 4-point kneeling. It does the same here. It helps carry your baby, so your lower back is not under so much strain. And then think about your posture. If you're hunched over, that is not neutral. If you're duck bumming like this, that is really going to shorten the lower back and it will hurt. So nice neutral spine. Now this will be you looking in your baby's cot, praying they don't wake up, looking at them when they're in the bath. We'll be doing these movements a lot. Now, start bending your knees down into a squat position. We don't have to go low because I know those of you with bigger bumps near the end now, parallel squat's a bit tricky just because your thighs are in the way. So I don't need you to come down very low and hold it here. If you're in pain in this position, of course, take it into turn out. So when you do a good squat, the weight is towards the back of the foot, right? I should be able to lift up my toes. Your glutes should still be on, okay? If they weren't on before, they should be now. Your knees should still be parallel hip width unless you've gone into turnout, right? So your knees follow the line of the ankle. Is that back still neutral, particularly your lower back, guys? Be careful of that deep arch that can creep in. Is the corset on? It's still helping you because you're hinged forwards, aren't you? And is your spine neutral? So in an ideal world, guys, this is what our squats would look like. Of course, when you're in a rush and there's a baby in the mix, you might not think all these things through, but every time you practice squats in the class, I really want you to think of these technique points because they'll now become habit. So now you would be thinking about picking up your child, even if that meant you now had to lean forwards more, and then you would use the power in these legs to push the floor away to come to standing. Let's practice that. Can you get back down into that nice squat position? Imagine you're picking something up, push the ground away with your legs, go back down again. Inhale, squat, exhale, push the ground away. Keep going, guys. Now the legs have some of the biggest, most powerful muscles that you have in your body. Why wouldn't we use them when we're picking up something very heavy, like car seats, babies, buggies? So this is how we should be using a squat, okay, when we're mums. So use the power in your legs, because otherwise what you do tend to do is use the power in your back. And your back is in quite a compromised position, isn't it? When you're pregnant, it's got a big job, and postnatally there's some big changes. So use those legs. 3 more. Nice neutral spine. 2. Keep that core engaged. 1 more. Now the last thing, come down into your squat, guys, and hold. I just want to practice the knack. The knack is you lifting your pelvic floor before you add load to the core. We've just been doing it, but more awareness to it now. We lift the pelvic floor, we push ourselves to stand. Inhale, come down, lift the pelvic floor, push yourself up to stand. Couple more of these. Now the knack is something you guys can use during pregnancy and postnatally to prevent leaking when you're adding extra load, like picking somebody up, or sneezing, or coughing. Some of you will already be doing it without knowing that you're doing it, but it's called the knack, and it's great to practice. 2 more. Lift the pelvic floor, then do the work. 1 more. Lift, do the work, and then rest. Give your legs a shake out, guys. So just some small pointers. Even if you correct one of those things, it'll make a massive difference to your back. Everyone overuses their backs. If you use your legs, you won't do that. All right, guys. So back to those 2 exercises. Skaters, one end of the mat towards the other end of the mat. 3, 2, 1, let's go. We reach, slight bend at the elbow. And just because we're moving here, we can still think about our posture. So try and stay quite neutral. Don't let that pelvis be pulled forwards into that anterior tilt. We could keep the core engaged. Some of you will already have the pelvic floor on because you're preempting there being extra load. And think about the spine, try not to hunch. Lovely, we've got 5 seconds and it's floor to ceiling. 3, 2, 1, maybe we mix it up. So maybe we do the opposite squat position this time to what you did in the first round. Bring into play what we just practiced. Good technique. Use the power in your legs. Add in the knack at the bottom. So lift the pelvic floor before you do the work, before you add the load, and increase the pressure in the core. At the top, try not to over arch the lower back. So find neutral at the top. And can you still talk? 5 seconds to go, guys. 3, 2, 1, and rest, but don't really rest. Have a walk around. Have a breather. So we talked about this before, but there is a reason why in those health and safety at work courses, you're taught if you're picking up something heavy, bend at the hips and the knees, and it is for exactly the same reason. The number of back injuries that we see in the studio because people have picked up something heavy like this and then used their backs to pull themselves back up, it's so common, and you're going to be doing lots of those movements when the babies are here. So, back to the end of your mats, guys. We're coming back down to the floor, so make your way to the end of the mat. Just like before, find neutral. And the more we practice neutral posture, the more we'll know when we're not in it and be able to correct again. The arms go over the head. Just because we've moved the limbs, the body should still be nice and neutral. And then just like earlier on, guys, slowly roll down. Make the back of your back of your body work together to control the roll down. So you're using the back of the body as you get down, and then again at the bottom you give it a break. You rest, you allow it a chance to lengthen and ungrip. Hanging here. If you need to take the feet wider, remember of course to do if you're feeling squashed. And then if you feel safe to get down this way, bend the knees, hands to the ground and walk out. But as always, if that doesn't feel right, you just come down however works for you. And we meet back on hands and knees. Now, I need you to find a nice neutral spine. So get those curves back into your back. Activate your core. So lift the pelvic floor and engage your corset muscle so you feel that support around the lower back. Now work out which one is your right leg and your left arm. Slide them along the ground, but keep them in contact with the mat for a sec. Now look down at your hips. Try and level them off, or if you can't see your hips, look at your left inner thigh. Try to have it so it's vertical, not diagonal. Is the core still engaged? Before we move, what's going on with this right shoulder? Could you move it away from your ears? So don't wear them like an earring. On the next exhale, we lift the arm and the leg up away from the ground and we hold. And I only want them to come as high as you can stay nice and neutral. So be careful you're not doing this, okay? It's not about height. I want you to imagine on your back there's a cup of tea and you don't want it to spill. Now when you're ready, we're going to inhale to bring that hand and knee together underneath us. Tap it if you can, but if your bump's in the way, don't worry. And then exhale, reach back out into Superman. Inhale, we slowly bring that hand and knee to tap underneath. Exhale, we reach back out into Superman. So whilst we're doing this, really this is about preventing movement, okay? So I want that back to stay really neutral. And really it's the pelvis that's most likely to be moving. So try and keep that pelvis really, really steady. So you're not arching that lower back. The best way to do that is to keep the core engaged. So don't forget that pelvic floor and that corset muscle. And that right shoulder is going to try to creep up towards the ear. Try not to let it. Use that right lat to keep it out of the way. 3 more of these. This exercise should look really dull, okay? The more dull it looks, the better you're probably doing it. On the last one, we're going to reach back out into that Superman. We're going to hold. Now lower that left hand to the floor. So that right wrist gets a bit of help. Keep this right leg straight for a moment. Look at the hips. Are they level? Is your left inner thigh vertical? Now lower the leg down so the foot taps the ground. Exhale, lift it back up. Inhale, tap the foot to the ground. Exhale, lift it back up. So the leg stays straight, guys. It's just a hip hinge. The right glute is doing the job. The right glute is lifting that back leg. The core is engaged. Lovely, guys. Shoulders away from the ears. Almost there. We're going to do 3 more. And exhale, reach. Good. Last 2. Belly buttons gently drawing in. Last one, we're going to lift, you're going to hold that last one there, reach that leg away for 3, 2, 1, lower the knee down, and then if you can take a child's pose, take the knees as wide as the mat, gently sit back on your heels and rest for a moment. Now if you can't, because you can't get your legs wide enough, you could keep the knees hip width, come onto your forearms and lift your bum up into the air. So whatever works best for you. Quick breather, lovely. And then when you're ready, slowly come back up to 4-point kneeling and other side. So right arm, left leg. So the wrist that is probably aching right now, reach that arm forwards, extend the left leg behind you and hold it here. Look at your hips, make sure they're level. Look at the right inner thigh, make sure it's vertical. Then lift the arm and leg up away from the ground and hold them there for a moment. So in this position, we do not want that lower back to dip. We've got a nice neutral spine, hold it here. Now on the inhale, we slowly bring that hand and knee together underneath the tummy. Exhale, reach the arm and leg back out. Inhale, we bring it underneath to tap. Exhale, slowly we reach back out. And let's keep this going. Hips are nice and level, no leaning to the right. Well done guys, keep that corset switched on. Good. So this should look really boring, remember? So if it's looking really exciting, then you might be arching the lower back. Watch that left shoulder, make sure it's not touching your left ear. Use your lat to keep it away. Almost there. And we're going to do 3 more. Lovely, last 2. Now the last one, we reach out, we hold, double check your positioning. Lower that right hand to the ground so the left wrist gets a break. So double check the pelvis is level and neutral. Inhale, we lower the foot to the ground. Exhale, we lift it back up. Inhale, we lower it. Exhale, we lift it. The pelvis stays nice and still. Lovely. And we're using that left glute to move that leg. Well done guys, it's tempting to lean to the right. Try not to do that. Let's do 3 more. Last 2. On this last one, let's lift, hold that last one there, reach it back a little bit more for 3 and 2 and 1. Lower that knee down, and again, if you can't take your knees wide, you could come onto your forearms and take a break here. If you can widen the knees, then you could even sit back into a child's pose. If you've got the space and you can get your bump through the gap, hold it here for 3 and 2, and then use your hands to push yourselves all the way up to kneeling. Now when you're ready guys, just come up to standing kneel for your final exercise here. Find neutral. Remember, it's harder to find neutral in kneeling because you've already got your knee in flexion, so some muscles will be in a stretched position. So be really sure there that you're nice and neutral. Arms are by your side, your palms are facing backwards. So palms face back, relax the shoulders, and we pulse these arms back, back, back for chest expansion. Push, push, push. So as these arms are moving, I'd like you to imagine that they're pushing through treacle. So there's resistance here. That imaginary resistance really does add a lot to the exercise. The rest of your body should be staying nice and still. So be careful the pelvis isn't moving. Get those glutes on and engage your core, and you push, push, push. Well done guys, keep breathing. Keep the arms nice and straight. Can we pick up the pace? 5, 4, 3, 2. Now push back and hold. Crisscross these arms, one in front, one behind, and we switch, switch, switch. Feel that stretch across your chest. Feel the back of your body working. Final 4, 3, 2. Push back and hold that last one there. And then when you're ready, you can relax. Give the shoulders a roll, shake out your arms, and then I would have a quick break because then we're coming up to standing, but I just don't want you to get too dizzy. So take your time. Once you're ready, you're going to come up, and it's your final round of cardio. So same again, 2 exercises, 30 seconds each. So squat kick. Think about your squat position. Do you need to do it in just one position, turn out or parallel, or could we do one the first round, one the second round? What you'll be doing guys is you'll squat down, come up, kick the left leg. Squat down, come up, kick the left leg. So same leg for 30 seconds. Now, if you need to reduce the range, do. If you can't kick, you could maybe just lift the left heel. If you want to work harder, try lifting the leg before you get to the top. So from the front, I'm loading up my right leg before I've made it to the top, so I make it more unstable, okay? Then we'll do the other leg. So, when you're ready guys, find a nice squat position. Everything we've talked about, let's keep that in mind. So maybe we're going to mix it up a bit. Hands in prayer position, the left leg will kick first. 3, 2, 1. So we squat, come up, left leg kick. Squat, come up, left leg kick. Every single time that left leg kicks. Now remember, if the kick is not feeling right for you today, you could kick a bit lower, or you could just lift the heel, loading up that right leg, particularly that right heel. Really nice, guys. Keep that back nice and neutral. And if you wanted that harder option, remember you basically start taking the weight off the left foot before you get to the top. 5 seconds to go, then we switch. 3, 2, 1, and swap. Drop it down and kick. Think about the foot each time. See if you can get it back into the same footprint, okay? Lovely, loading up that left leg. Exhale. Lovely, almost there, guys. Can you still talk? Good. We've got just over 5 seconds to go. Load up that left leg. And we've got 3, 2, 1, and rest. But don't really rest. Have some water, move around, and ask yourself how that felt. Does it need adapting? Was it painful? It should never be painful. Okay, guys, so slow the breath back down, have a breather, and then your final toner. So we're going to come to the middle of the mat, we're going to find neutral again. So feet, spread the toes wide, knees unlocked, pelvis neutral, ribs in the body. Then I like to bring your arms up to cactus position, shoulders at 90, elbows at 90. Can you just check the arms are as far back as you can get them without doing this? So try not to pop the ribs and arch your back, but also that your forearm is as vertical as possible. Get those wrists back. Lovely. Now when you're ready, we're going to inhale, rotate the arms so the palms face the floor. Exhale, rotate the arms so the palms face forwards. Inhale, rotate them down. Exhale, pull them and rotate them back. Now once you've got this going, you can start thinking about moving your feet again, just so you're not stood still for ages. Lovely, good. Rocking from one foot to the other. And then with these arms, I want the rotation to be about 90 degrees. So if you're stiff through the front of your chest, this can be quite challenging. Pull those arms back. Feel that stretch across the front of the chest. Inhale forwards and exhale, draw them back. Lovely. Keep the ribs inside the body so we're not moving the back. Often we'll borrow the movement from our spine if we're tight through other areas, but that's not going to fix the problem, so don't move your back. 3 more. Lovely. Hi, Rosa. Last 2. Last 1. Bring those arms back to cactus. Hold it there. Little pulses here. So we bounce, bounce, bounce those arms. Keep them moving. Keep them drawn back. Lovely. Don't let those ribs pop. Final 5. 4, 3, 2, last 1. Hold. Look at the arms. Are they any further back? Could you get them further back without popping the ribs? 3, 2, 1, and rest. Give the shoulders a roll. Maybe you want to move your head a little bit. Lovely. So final 2 exercises. We'll kick with the right leg this time. If you did it in parallel first time, maybe do it in turn out this time. Mix it up. So hands in prayer to begin with, just so they're out of the way. 3, 2, 1. So we squat, come up, kick that right leg. Squat, come up, kick. Lovely. So think about the technique, everything that we've practiced. Nice neutral spine. Keep the core engaged to support that bump. Lovely. And if you wanted more, remember you could load up the left leg a little bit before you get to the top. Use that breath. 5 seconds and we swap those legs. 3, 2, 1, and switch. Well done, guys. Drop it and kick. If you don't like the kick, to be honest, it tends to be if you've got pain around your pubic bone that you might find that the kick isn't very happy. So you can always get rid of the kick and just lift the heel. Can you still talk, guys, or do you need to slow it down a touch? 5 seconds. 3, 2, 1, and rest. But don't really rest. Have a walk around. Have a breather. Really well done, guys. Nice slow breaths. Good. Okay, so as soon as you're ready, I'd like you to come into your cool downs. So don't cool down too much, the irony. So come back to marching like you did at the start or the end of your warm-up section. So we're starting with the legs high, get those ankles moving and move as fast as you can without going too far on your scale of 1 to 10. So those of you who are new, guys, just to really labour the point that a warm-up and a cool-down is important whether you're pregnant or not. But if I gave you £1 for every time someone in the studio says that they didn't stretch at the end of the class or they didn't warm up before they went for a run, then we'd all be rich. So it's really important, but it's even more important when you're pregnant. So important. So if you are still running, make sure that there is a period of warming up, whether that's walking, then jogging, then running, or you could do this at the end as your cool down, but you must cool down properly at the end. So get those ankles moving, guys. We can start to reduce the height of the knees though, and we can start to slow this down a bit, but do keep those ankles moving. Lovely. Can we reduce the height even more? So we barely look like we're moving. Big deep breaths. Lovely. Final 3, 2, 1, and change into your skater stretch. So feet parallel, hands to prayer, and get those legs moving again. Now we want to go a bit slower than we did in the warm-up, obviously, because we don't want to get warm again. Think about slowing that breath down, breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth. Lovely. And even though we're going slower, just make sure again that you're not going so far that you can't stop frowning or you're holding your breath because it's such a deep stretch. That's not what we want when we're pregnant. Final 3, 2, 1, and then gently change. Bring the feet closer together, hands on the shoulders for circles. Now we could do this with straight arms if you like. That's a much nicer stretch for the bicep as well as the pec, but just be careful you're not popping the ribs. So everything we've talked about already still applies. And then one more, and then we reverse it. Other direction, no popping those ribs. Really lovely, guys. Keep that core engaged. 3, and 2, and 1. Shake out those arms, feet hip width apart. Get those calves moving. One heel up, one heel down, mainly just to keep the mobility now. So you don't have to worry about rising and falling. Just stretch out the front of the ankle. Lovely. Now your breath should almost be back to normal. You should feel like you did before the class. Final 3, and 2, and 1. Give the ankles a rotate, one way then the other, and rest. Now, for your Kegels, guys, we're not going to spend long on them, don't worry, but I would like you to sit on the floor for them today, if that's okay. I know it's a faff when you're heavily pregnant, but you can sit on the sofa if you like. I really don't mind, as long as you're sat down, okay? Find a position that's comfy, so it might be cross-legged, but it might not be. Frog's legs, straight legs, bent legs, you do what works for you. And then try and find a really neutral posture, because everything works best in neutral. Pull the flesh away from the sit bones maybe, and feel like you're sat on those bum bones. Now this morning, I'd like us to focus on the analogy of the 2 blueberries. So imagine that on the floor underneath you, there's 2 blueberries, and you're going to be picking them up with the front passage and the back passage. So the back passage, we're thinking of the anus, so we want to be closing around the blueberry and lifting. Remember that with pelvic floor, it's not just squeezing aggressively, it's close the hole, lift the hole, right? So that's the back blueberry. Now with the front blueberry, really we've got 2 front passages, haven't we? We've got the urethra, which holds in urine, and then the vagina, which then takes you to the uterus. We tend to think about the urethra because we imagine holding in a wee, but actually, if you guys can, it would be lovely if you were thinking about holding in wee, but also closing and lifting the vagina. That is, I would say, more difficult because with the back passage and the front passage, we know how to do those because we have to hold things in, whereas with the vagina, it's a bit different. So you could maybe imagine drawing a tampon into the body or just closing around something. But if we can, with the front passage, it's actually 2 passages, isn't it? So if we can try to hold both, then great. But either way, there's 2 blueberries on the floor, we're going to pick them up, we're going to hold them, and then we'll let them drop at the end. So if you can close the eyes, if you're not having to childcare as well, close the eyes and relax. Find your breath, breathing in through your nose and breathing out through the mouth. Take another big breath in. Now on the next exhale, let's go. Let's pick up those blueberries and hold them for 10. 9, keep breathing. 8, 7, keep breathing. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Now drop the blueberries. We don't want to fire them out, we just want to drop them and then find your breath again. So did you feel any difference between when we were potentially holding them and then dropping them? The third trimester, it's really important you focus on the release. We're going to do that again, so big breath in, let's go. Exhale, pick them both up and hold. For 10, keep breathing for 9. 8, keep breathing, 7. 6, relax your shoulders, 5. 4, keep holding them, 3, 2, 1, drop them. Don't fire them, but drop them. And I would just have a quick wiggle and a shake if you need it. Did you feel like one blueberry was easier than the other? Did you feel like you dropped them halfway? If you get to 5 seconds, you can build up, doesn't have to be 10. Make sure you're comfy for your pulses. We're literally just gonna pick them up, drop them, pick them up, drop them. Third trimester, you guys need to think about the dropping more than the lifting, I would say. Close the eyes if you can, find your breath. So we're gonna take a big breath in, and when you're ready, guys, let's go. We lift them up, drop them, up, drop, up, drop, up, 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 rest. Can you feel any feedback from the ground? Sitting on the floor or on a cushion or on your birthing balls can really help, because remember, the perineum lifts when you lift the pelvic floor. So some of us can feel something happening in our underwear or against the ground underneath you. So that can really help if you're not sure you're doing it. Last round of 10, guys. Breathe in, and when you're ready, let's go. Lift them up, drop, up, up, breathe, up, up, rest, and then relax. Well done, guys. Now remember, when you do those, you're supposed to do 10 of each. So 10 holds and 10 groups of 10 pulses. So if you've got time or childcare to stay on your mat and do some more of those, of course do. If you want to spend some time maybe doing a bit of stretching out before you go, then do, but also I'm aware that I have run out of time with you. So I hope you enjoyed the class. Those of you watching the class live, I'll be able to chat in a sec if you've got any questions. Otherwise, if you're watching this on demand, make sure you go and eat something, drink something, go for a wee, and try not to go too quick about your day straight away. Give yourself a time just to get going with the rest of your day. But I hope you enjoyed the class, and I'll see you again soon. Bye!